Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, Kenanga troopers. Yeah, sorry I just branded you guys that way, but that's what I'm gonna do. Hi, Kenanga troopers. Thank you for joining us this evening, everyone, to our tech sector webinar, which will be presented by my colleague Samuel Tan, which is the head of tech in Kenanga. He also covers tactical strategy. He's really talented profile in the research scene, and he have made a lot of calls that has been very good, very good calls. So we are actually very happy to have him tonight. And at the same time tonight, we have a few more people that join us. And today we have a special guest, which is from Bursa, Amirul, which is from the Investment Strategy and Development Department. And most importantly, while we are always hosting our sector outlook, and we try to put in more for you guys. And most importantly is on knowledge and education, and that's why Isabelle is also here tonight to reinforce the knowledge on warrants for you guys. So I hope that the next thing I'm going to say is a very boring thing. This is a disclaimer. You guys can actually print it out, hang it on your main door, so that every day that you got home, you can actually be reminded of my face. Yeah, yeah. The next thing I would love you guys to do is take up your handphone now, turn on your camera, scan this little box here, and you have access to all our social media channels here: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Telegram. And Telegram is essential nowadays if you want to be at the fingertip of information. We have Kenanga Trade to Win and Naga Warrants. Both are equally important to follow. Do not miss that. And I shall count 3, 2, 1, and I shall throw the floor to Samuel and start. 3, 2.5, 1. Okay. Samuel, you can go live now.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. Are you able to
Yep.
see the slide presentation?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Very
good.
good
Thank you so
colors.
much, Adrian, for organizing this call, and thank you to everyone that actually dialed in this evening to take out time from your day. So I'm Samuel. I'm from the research team at Kenanga Research. I cover the tech sector. Basically, this encompasses the semicon, EMS, and also some software companies in Malaysia. So today, actually, we are going through a bit of a outlook on what is to be expected, given that the tech cycle has been in the correction phase for the last 2 years. Okay, so before I start off, just to give you some context, where are we today now in the tech sector? We had a tech sector boom during the COVID period, simply because there was transitioning to a different working environment. Everyone worked from home. Everyone had to buy their electronics devices. Corporates have to spend huge on laptops for their employees. Hence, we saw that demand of chips. And fast forward, when COVID ended and the whole economy reopened, there was a surplus capacity, be it on the front-end semiconductor and even the back-end semiconductor. So there was a gestation period to ramp down inventory, let inventory clear off. That was 2022 and 2023, hence 2 years of down cycle. And coming into 2024, we see that we had always been neutral on the tech space, but we recently upgraded in our third quarter outlook, simply because we believe on a second half recovery in the tech space this year. And we are starting to see momentum of that happening. If you look at the KL Tech Index, it actually started to pick up in April. And corporates on the ground are actually mentioning that visibility has improved, pipeline and inquiries have actually improved paving the way for a recovery in 2024, the second half, and a possible or likelihood of another upcycle in 2025. So with that context as a backdrop of our the tech space, I would like to go into just a refresher. So for those who are actually dialed into Kentrade's tech outlook before, you will be familiar with this slide. I did some updates on it to include a few more companies. So this is because the tech space is always evolving. There's always new players, and developments in the tech space happens quite rapidly compared to other sector. Hence, this slide always needs updating. So, but I'll just run quickly through to give you an overview of the supply chain in the semiconductor space specifically. So on the top, on this flow chart, you always see design houses. And these design houses, we always brand them as fabless because they are the companies that design the chip, but they have no capabilities of manufacturing the chip. So hence, you can think of them as the architect. They only can, or they choose to focus on designing these chips on a computer software. And we call this software EDA software. So these are companies like Texas Instruments, AMD, which some of you may be familiar with if you are using laptops. Qualcomm is a name that everyone should be familiar with. If you are not using an Apple phone, your phone, if it's an Android base, it is powered by Qualcomm. Broadcom, no matter you're using Apple or Android, you have their components in your phone. Broadcom is one of the leader in the radio frequency chip, which enables you to receive signals, be it 5G, 4G, or even 3G. Same goes for analog devices. Analog devices have a lot of microcontrollers on your phone. Skyworks and Qorvo are the peers of Broadcom when it comes to the radio frequency space. So they have their strengths and on each in the RF space. Broadcom is very much more familiar in the high bandwidth frequency. Skyworks and Qorvo are more on the mid bandwidth and the low bandwidth. And all three different bandwidths are required for you to receive signal, be it 5G, 4G, or 3G, because depending on the terrain or the areas that you're in, different frequency is needed. So in a more congested city center, you will need lower frequency because it can penetrate all the buildings, whereas in a large environment, open area, without any restriction or walls or barriers, you can use high frequency. So because high frequency is easily blocked by concrete, but without any concrete, it gives you a very optimal signal. So these are design houses, are all foreign companies in the Western region. And these design houses, usually they have in-house engineers and in-house designers. But normally in-house, when you start to grow your portfolio of products, there are some other products you wouldn't want to use your own internal resources, then you outsource it. And hence, there is this segment called the outsourced designer, which is newly updated if you have compared with my previous slide. So Opstar is a Malaysian company. And by the way, those highlighted are all Malaysian company. The red color, words in red color wording are company that I cover in the research team. So Opstar is the first company in Malaysia that is an IC designer or integrated circuit designer, and they get jobs from the guys above. Skychip is also an up-and-coming company based in Penang. They are likely going to go for IPO next year if their IPO journey goes smoothly. So they are in the midst of preparation now. The peers of these companies, there's a lot of them in Taiwan, simply because Taiwan is a very semiconductor orientated country, and they have a very good ecosystem. So in Taiwan, you can see names like Alchip, M31. And in Japan, which is also pretty close to Taiwan, you have an IC designer well known called Social Next, which went listed, I think, in recent years, maybe in the recent 5 years. So once these chips are being designed, again, you recall design houses design it, but they cannot manufacture it. They need to send their design to the manufacturer, which is, we call them wafer fab. And wafer fab are the likes of TSMC in Taiwan, which has a very dominant role in the semiconductor space. So to give you an illustration, almost more than 50% of the chips are fabricated from TSMC globally. And if you want to talk about advanced chip with very small nanometer count, I think it's close to 80% that comes from TSMC, and they supply to the whole world. Even your NVIDIA H100 chips are all done by TSMC. SMIC is the biggest wafer fab, but in China, globally, they are number 4, number 5. But recently, they have risen to the ranks of number 3. So if globally, it will be TSMC, followed by Samsung, and then SMIC in China. Samsung, as you all know, is a Korean company. Besides selling Galaxy S24s to you, they also have their own wafer fab, which fabricate their own processor for their Samsung phones. So those processors are mainly for in-house consumption. UMC is a Taiwan company. Global Foundries is a Middle Eastern company located in Singapore. And Intel, if you follow the news recently, is that they are laying off, I think, more than 10,000 workers. And results are not good simply because they have been struggling. Intel used to be the leader. They have a motto that only real men have fabs. So fabs means fabrication house, and they always pride themselves of being a closed ecosystem where they have their own wafer fab, they fabricate their own chips, and they use themselves. They are the only fab that doesn't share with other people. And this gives them a head start early in the decades. But fast forward to the last 10 years, the last 5 years, they've been struggling very badly because the likes of TSMC, Samsung, they are sharing their capacity with other people. They learn more from others. They advance faster and they improve faster, while Intel is lagging behind. Hence, if you look at Intel share price, it has fallen quite substantially in the latest results that came out, I think, a few weeks ago. And they need to cut workforce. So below these wafer fab services, you have wafer fab equipment, because to fabricate chips, you need equipment. And these guys like TSMC, they provide the fabrication services, but they source those equipments from the likes of ASML in Holland, Lam Research Applied Materials in US, KLA Tenco, and ASM. And below wafer fab equipment, you have this sub-chain, which are Malaysian companies here. We deem them as proxy to the front end. So I would draw a line here. Above this line, I will call them a front-end semiconductor. Below this line, I call them back-end semiconductor. So front-end semiconductor is deemed to be more valuable, higher up the value chain, whereas back-end semiconductor is what Malaysia is very much well-versed in. It is lower down the value chain, but it's also equally important in the whole semiconductor ecosystem. So UWC is trying to grow their exposure to front end by doing jobs for these wafer fab equipment customers. What they do is they're trying to do some partial assembly, some component machining for their machines. For Frontend's case, Frontend is providing cleaning services, specializing in front-end equipment maintenance. And for Kelington Group provides, they ride mainly on the capex of the wafer fab, like TSMC, SMIC, Global Foundries. When these companies expand their wafer fab, they build a new wafer fab, they require Kelington's niche expertise in ultra-high purity gas system, because to fabricate chips, you need a lot of ultra high purity gases, and the gases needs to be traveled in a very dedicated system, and that is where Kelington has its expertise in. So moving down to the back-end semiconductor, we have OSAT packaging and testing. And these are names that you'll be more familiar with, like Unisem, MPI, Inari, Globetronics, KESM, and D&O. So these guys help to do packaging. So once the wafer is done, each wafer has gone through all the lithography process of fabrication. You have to package it. And to package it, you need equipment that can handle those packaging. And the likes of Unisem and MPI will help you to package. They provide packaging services, but they source their equipment from the likes of MI, Elsoft, Great Tech, Pentamaster, Emulus, Vitrox, and QES. And after you package the chip will be passed to the EMS player. So EMS players, the most well-known is Foxconn. There are big names like Plexus, Jabil, and Flextronics. These guys will actually take the chip, put it on the motherboard through a technology called Surface Mount Technology, or SMT. And there you have your main board of your chip. Then you do the final assembly. So in Malaysia, similar companies are like SKP, VS, PIE, Atan, NationGate, and JHM. And after the EMS has done the final assembly, you have your final product, be it your Apple iPhone, your Dyson vacuum cleaner, hair dryer, hand dryer, hair curler, your laptops, your DJI drones. This will be your final product. And this final product would be passed on to the distribution and system integrator. And players in Malaysia that are in the distribution space are like VS Tech. So if you walk in Plaza Lawyat in Imbi, you basically go to any shops in Plaza Lawyat, almost 90% of the shops source their products from VS Tech. So VS Tech is a very big distributor in Malaysia for IT gadgets. CloudPoint, Infomina, Infoline Tech, SNS Network are also in this category, where they do system integration and some distribution of products. So hopefully this slide may look dry, but it's very important to have this understanding when you look at the tech sector. So next, as our title suggests, it's a dawn of a new cycle. And why I say new cycle, because we have been in the down cycle for the last 2 years. 2024 is deemed as a recovery year, with second half being more prominent. And 2025 would be another upcycle based on our view. And in addition to that, we also see another catalyst, which is the data center that's happening in Malaysia. And data center is not new in Malaysia, but it has been more well-known in our neighbor country, which is Singapore, because Singapore has very good internet connection. Rewind back 10, 15 years ago, you can see Singapore already have speeds of 1 gigabits per second, while we are still only using 10 megabits per second, or at best 30 megabits per second. So Singapore was way more advanced in terms of internet connection, and hence data center will always go for very strong connection. But fast forward to today, Singapore is facing some constraint. So some of the constraint that Singapore has been facing is the lack of land space, the lack of electricity, the lack of water, and as you know, data centers are quite hungry in terms of electricity and water. And without saying, land needs to be in abundance because it's quite space consuming. So Singapore has always known for their friendly business environment, advanced telco infra, stable politics and economic environment. But Malaysia, after some improvement, some government change, and for the better, we have been seeing Malaysia is seemingly more attractive to foreigner, and hence these foreigners or these data center operators are going for the Singapore +1 move, where they look at Johor, not just Johor, even in Cyberjaya or in Selangor as an alternative to Singapore. So what actually caused these operators to switch is because of a moratorium on data center development in Singapore. So Singapore government has saw that data center accounted for 7% of the country's consumption, and that is starting to worry because Singapore has very limited land. And if this number continue to grow, they will face strain on power and water, and hence they put a moratorium to curb the permit for data center development. And that lasted for a couple of years, from 2019 to another in 3 years. So that during that 3-year window, there actually wasn't much data center development. Although they lift the moratorium in 2023, Singapore government still remains very selective on the permits, and hence setting up data center in Singapore is not as easy as before, despite the moratorium lifted. So Johor, being in such close proximity to Singapore, actually enjoys the spillover effect. And just to give you a visualization of how big Johor is compared to Singapore. So Johor land size is 19,000 kilometers square. Singapore is not even 1,000, it's 734 kilometers square. So this shows you the proximity from Johor airport to the hotspots, data center hotspots. So the 3 main hotspots in Johor now is Sedenak Tech Park, YTL Green Data Center, and Nusa Jaya Tech Park. And they are all within an hour or 2 hours drive to Johor airport. And even without flights, you are just 1 hour away from Singapore. So Singapore now has around 900 megawatts of capacity, and there's still a couple more under construction, but they need to go to Johor to get more resources. Just to give you an overview of what is happening in the other developed nations or the top spots of data centers. So Tokyo has 896 megawatts operational, 1,004 is on stream. Mumbai in India has 462 megawatts, another 1,000 coming. Sydney has 724 megawatts with another 1,000 megawatts upcoming. So Johor, based on 9 data centers that has been completed as of June, they have 1,002 megawatts. This eclipses the likes of Singapore, Tokyo, Mumbai, and Sydney, respectively. And in addition to that, we have another 1,004 or close to 1,005 megawatts of IT capacity that is in the pipeline. And hence in total, and you can verify this by market research from DC Bytes, there will be more than 3,000 megawatts in total that will come on stream into Malaysia, spread across Johor, Cyberjaya, and the rest of Selangor. So Malaysia also aims to achieve renewable energy mix of 31% by 2025, 40% by 2035. And this is also one key factor that attracts data center operators, because they know that the cheap tariff in Malaysia is just a temporary attractiveness. And what is needed to go forward sustainably is renewable energy. And Malaysia, again, has the space, the land to do things like solar plants, hydro plants, and hydrogen related to produce more renewable energy. And this is something that the operators are actually quite attracted to. So basically this presentation, we also did one session recently with our clients in US. So they also want to know why Malaysia is attracting such a spotlight, and why are they making headlines in the news? Whereas in ASEAN, there are so many countries, but Malaysia seems to be the outperformer in terms of equities also among their ASEAN peers. So characteristic of Malaysia, why is it attracting so many FDIs is because one, we are multicultural. Multicultural simply makes us multilingual. And while this may sound very normal to locals like us, this is actually something that is playing a big role in attracting these foreign direct investments. And be it a Hong Kong company expanding to Malaysia, a Western company expanding to Malaysia, or a China company expanding to Malaysia, they will find themselves feeling at home because they are able to communicate with the people around here, and Malaysia has that multilingual talent pool to supply the sufficient workforce and adequate workforce to these foreign companies that are expanding here. And this is something that is attracting those FDIs. Another important thing is Malaysia hold a neutral stance in the US-China trade war, and this is something that we are very positive on. Malaysia should continue to appear as a neutral country in this trade war, simply because we are then able to absorb both US company looking to come here as a diversification and also play on the China plus one, Singapore plus one, and also to some extent, we are talking now about Taiwan plus one kind of a initiative that is coming here. And most importantly is that Penang has established itself as a very strong tech hub. So Penang is a very small island, but it houses more than 10% of the global tech packaging facility. And this is only realized by the global news headline during the COVID, where chips were not being able to produce at the timeline they wanted. They realized it was because of lockdown, and it all points back to Penang. So Penang has gained a lot of awareness, and hence you see Intel is also expanding into Malaysia. ASE ASE is a Taiwanese company. Some of you may know them as Ruye Guang. ASE is the biggest chip packaging company in the world, and they are also expanding in Penang. Dexcom is a big medical company. They're coming to Penang, and Penang is their first manufacturing site outside of US. Another big investment is Infineon. Infineon is very strong in automotive semiconductor. They are the leaders. They are a German-based company. They are the leader. If you drive an EV or even a natural aspirated car, you will have Infineon's chip in your car. Lam Research has opened a plant in Penang as well. There was a 1B investment, and ASML is also looking or eyeing whether they should diversify to Malaysia. And ASML is a company that without them, there would not be terms like 2 nanometer, 3 nanometer, or even lithography. They are the brains behind how chip is being manufactured. And TSMC in Taiwan are the brains behind to know how to use this machine to manufacture with a very desirable yield rate. So these are companies that are super key in the supply chain. And it's sometimes hard to believe how one company like ASML or TSMC dominates the whole world in the supply chain. So with that backdrop, today we will talk more on the beneficiaries of the data center space. So firstly, I cover the tech space, so I'll only focus on tech related, but the words highlighted in red are under our research coverage. We have active coverage on that. But just to go through briefly, beneficiaries of the data centers, firstly, you start with your construction phase, which would be taken care by the likes of Gamuda, IGM, Suncon, and YTL. Then they are the main con. They will have subbed out some of the jobs to the subcon, which handles mechanical engineering and processes. So we call it an MP. These are like companies like Critical Holdings, HE Holdings, and also MN Holdings. And for power supply, you only have one player, which is monopolizing the market. There's TMB Malaysia. For telecommunication, you have TM, Time.com, and also YTL Communication. And on the server, so if you look at how I go through this flow, basically you have the construction guys at the phase 1 of the DC data center cycle. This typically lasts 12 months or 1.5 years. After the construction phase, then you need, because after construction, the whole data center is an empty space and you need to fill it up with equipment. And we call this the data center fit out stage. And during this fit out stage, you need servers and you need server related switches, storage, so on and so forth. And this is where we believe the tech players will be next in line to actually benefit from this DC cycle. So on the server space, we like NationGate. NationGate is involved with server now. So they are, if you go under NVIDIA's website, you can actually see NationGate as one of the approved OEM to actually buy NVIDIA H100 cards. And with that ability to buy the cards, they are able to sell the entire full suite of servers. So what NationGate is actually moving towards is selling the server rack with NVIDIA cards inside. And hence, this is quite a big achievement for NationGate. PIE is also in this space. There is a customer that is looking to have a China +1 diversification, and they have engaged PIE to actually produce their server switches and also server. So switches and server is PIE moving into, and hence you see why maybe a couple 1 or 2 months back, PIE actually saw a very good momentum in its share price. So these two companies are very much in the server segment. And next, you see some upstream components. So these are complementary products aside from server. These are like optical transceivers and also data center power management. NationGate is also involved in optical transceivers. Inari is involved. But for optical transceivers, NationGate has exposure to more than 50% of their revenue. Inari is at 14% of their revenue. And for MPI, they are more focused on data center power management chip. So MPI, again, is in the OSAT packaging space. They package power management chips for data center. And this may seem simple and insignificant, but if you think of it, MPI's power management chip has been regarded as good by their customer. The customer actually liked it because it has better power saving by a fraction. But if you multiply this fraction of power saving by 1,000, 10,000, 50,000 servers, the savings to your electricity bill is actually compounded and is very significant. Hence, MPI has a 38% revenue exposure to this industrial segment, which is capturing the DC power management chip. And they are looking at a stronger second half this year. And this timing actually aligns with many of these companies here, because this is the timing in the second half where the construction of data center is more than 50-60% done. And hence, operators or tenants have to start to source for equipment to fit into the data center. And going one level down, that flow chart is the server hardware distributor. And this is again like VSTech and SNS Network. They will actually distribute parts of it, but their margins may not be as good as the ones above. But this is the typical way of how the distribution business is. And on a side note, when data center is booming, you have a lot of demand for storage, because a lot of this information has to be stored in the data center. And if you are looking to play into the hard disk components, you have the names like JCY, Dufu, and Notion VTech. And they are involved in components like disk clamp, disk spacer, base plate, and also actuator. So hope you have a good overview on the data center beneficiaries. So I'll go in details on PIE. So not sure how many of you guys actually realize, but PIE's parent company is Foxconn. So Foxconn owns around 27% of Pan International Corporation, and this Pan International is listed in Taiwan. And this Taiwanese company owns 51% of PIE Malaysia. You can ignore this PI China. So this is where PIE sits in the corporate structure from Foxconn's view. And so indirectly, Foxconn actually owns around 13% of PIE. And this is something you should keep in mind as we proceed forward. So PIE have a couple sites in Penang. So they have plant 1, plant 2, plant 3. Plant 4 is not here, not because they are superstitious, but plant 4 is somehow rented out to someone else. So they have plant 5 and then jump to plant 6. So plant 3, plant 5 has always been rented out, but they took it back because of a customer. And I'll give you a hint, this customer is related to the decentralized finance space. These are equipments that is very key to the decentralized finance space operation. So this customer has to come out from China because China policy wasn't very supportive of the decentralized finance, and hence they need to look for a vendor that can actually handle the complexity of their equipment. And PIE is one of the players that actually been doing for them. So plant 3 was dedicated to this customer. Then just last month, they took back the plant 5, they renovated, and just last month they start operating for the same customer side by side. Hence, you can see it's like a doubling up of floor space for this customer, and they are looking to fill it up quite quickly and to further expand. There's a car park here, they further expand. So in total, compared to plant 3, the plant 5 plus extension is a tripling of floor space for this customer. And this explains why the benchmark prices in the decentralized finance space is actually doing really well. For plant 6 here, this will be their new and upcoming plant. Will be ready by end of this year. This will also be their biggest plant for them, which is around 280,000 square feet. And this entire plant will be taken up by one single customer, which is the server and switches customer. And this customer is actually referred to from their parent company, Foxconn. So this company wants to have some diversification, and again, so happen PIE is in a country, Malaysia, that is neutral to the US-China trade war, and so happen that their parent company is Foxconn, so they get the referral, and not just that, they get to leverage on Foxconn's know-how. So Foxconn actually send engineers down to help them to get started up, basically help them to fast track all the qualification stage and get things up and running quickly. And they are scheduled to have a pilot run by end of this year, followed by mass production next year. So this is a bit of their customers. They, aside from the legacy customers or existing customers, which are related to power tools, communication. If you look at these communication devices, they are not your everyday devices that you and me can buy off the shelf. These are military use devices and only used in the military personnel. And in addition to this, they have the server, which I mentioned in Plant 6, and also the decentralized finance customer in Plant 3 and Plant 5. So this is some pictures on how they are factory looks like. They also have this raw wire and cable manufacturing process, and these are mainly used for PC peripherals. These are long existing businesses that is fairly stable and not mainly their growth drivers. So if you look at their revenue breakdown, they are doing previously before 2021, they have always been stuck at the 600 million revenue level. And when they got this new customer N, so customer N, to give you a hint, is a customer related to household device or household entertainment devices. And this customer again was referred to by their parent company, Foxconn. Hence, from 600 million revenue mark, they managed to grow until 1 billion. And since then, they have gained more exposure. They are more known by the MNCs and they continue to grow their revenue. So we expect them to see a upward trajectory in the coming years as they progress. And our thesis for PIE is very simple. Foxconn is one of the main reasons that they are able to leverage on their expertise, their know-how, and they are able to save time on the learning curve. Because when typical EMS company starts a new project, they are always faced with challenges during the startup period. So there is a learning curve, and that learning curve typically costs you some margins in the following quarters. But if you're able to have a fast track knowledge transfer kind of a transition for these new products, then you are able to maintain those margins and avoid those gestation period as much as possible. So for PIE Industrial, the drivers will be customer A. Customer A is again looking to expand very aggressively. Customer N is also engaging PIE for the manufacturing of their upcoming device to be launched next year. And also in Plant 6, there will be this customer, we call it customer H. They will be doing things related to server, network switches, and progressively they may progress to AI servers. And this is where we like them for the long structural trend of the data center expansion in Malaysia. So overall, we are estimating their net profit to grow to 85 million this FY24 and progress to 110 million next year. And our valuation for them is at 675 with an outperform call. So this is PIE. Another company that we like is Kelington Group. So Kelington Group is not in the data center supply chain per se, but they are a company that is very important in the semiconductor space because what they provide is ultra high purity gas delivery system. And their customers are the ones you can think of just now, like TSMC, SMIC, Global Foundries, Micron in Singapore, Siltronics, Western Digital. These are very big customers, and these are the typical customers that they deal with on and off. So Kelington's business is very simple. Two big businesses. One is the engineering side, one is the industrial gas. So when I mentioned ultra high purity gas system, it is these engineering systems that actually deliver those gases. And it's a big chunk of their revenue if you look at their financial reports. So in the ultra high purity segment, this is more than 60% of revenue. Basically, they have customers like what I mentioned just now. And when customers are looking to expand, they typically need Kelington's expertise because there's a lot of gases involved in manufacturing wafers. And this takes place either in the base build phase or the hookup phase. So the base build phase is for expansions that are starting from the ground up. So you need Kelington to work together with the main contractor to do the base build. And once the semiconductor wafer plant is fully established, you continue with the hookup phase. So hookup phase is, as what it says, you hook the system up to the equipment. And this also lasts 6 to 9 months. And this hookup can come in multi-phases because customers does not necessarily facilitate their wafer fab on day one. They may do it in the first half year, we use phase 1. The second half of the year, we do phase 2. So hence the 6 to 9 months burn order book burn period for the hookup jobs. If you look at the outstanding order book, Kelington has more than 70% in the ultra high purity segment. And the geographical exposure is quite balanced: Singapore, Malaysia, and China. Again, if you think back to my first slide, why a lot of companies are coming to China, and hence you can see why Infineon is expanding in Malaysia, Intel is expanding in Malaysia, Micron, Global Foundries are expanding in Singapore, and in China you have SMIC. And by looking at this chart, you can understand that why we like Kelington, because they are the first layer of beneficiary from wafer fab expansions. They're right on the capex cycle and they're very early in the cycle. And Kelington gives you a very good read through on what is to come. You see now their outstanding order book is at 1.3 billion and their tender book is more than that. Hence, it gives me, what it means to me is that there is a lot of expansion in the pipeline, and this is aligned with what market is expecting, that 2025 will be another semiconductor upcycle. So this is their process engineering. Is small compared to their revenue because UHP is their core. This handling for tank farms, for very familiar names, as you can see here. And general contracting is 1/4 of their revenue. And these are mainly to cater for, as it sounds, more general contracting, not so specific and niche. And they have done notable works for Western Digital in Sarawak and Melisys also in Sarawak. So if you look at their order book replenishment, 19 and 2020 is pretty stable. 20, they start to see some uptick because of the COVID and semiconductor boom. 2021, 2022, 2021 basically is the end of the tech cycle. And then 2022 and 2023, if you look at your tech portfolio, it didn't do very well. But why Kelington still can have so good replenishment is because the capex has been committed by the customer previously, so they have to honor those contract awards that have been given out. Hence, 2022 was doing well, and this has led to 2023 and 2024. So outstanding order book is at 1.3, tender book is at 1.9. And typically, they are able to replenish at least 1B a year. So this 1.9 is looking very encouraging as to what we can expect in the semiconductor expansion in the second half of this year and also in 2025. And aside from the engineering business, they have the industrial gas business. The industrial gas basically supplies to F&B, and they are expanding this very quickly because industrial gas is double the margins of the engineering business. So they have expanded recently, plant 2. In total, they have 120,000 metric tons a year. And they are also looking to expand to other countries like New Zealand and Indonesia, because why their liquid CO2 is so sellable and into neighboring countries, because Kelington gets their CO2 from Malaysia as their feedstock, and this comes from Petronas, which has 24/7 uninterrupted supply, whereas neighboring countries get their feedstock from oil wells and petrochemical plants. And these two, oil wells and petrochemical plants, are prone to scheduled shutdowns. And if you're dealing with F&B, it has to be sustainable and constant uninterrupted supply. Hence, Kelington is the only one in the neighboring that is able to meet that requirement. So in the industrial gas segment, 60% is from CO2, 20% is from on-site gas rental, and others industrial gas. These are for trading gases. This is pretty small, but they are trading very special gases. And if you are in the chemistry background, you'll be familiar with names like silane, diborane, and POCl3. And the industrial gas business has been growing at 94% CAGR for the past 4 years. And be reminded that this has very high margins, double the margins of their engineering business. So they're expanding aggressively. They have presence in the existing countries, and Hong Kong and Germany are new locations they are expanding into. And this is from the demand of customers. And why we like Kelington is because, again, if you look at the chart, 2020 was the beginning of the upcycle, 2021 peaked, 22 and 23 was a down cycle. Going to 2024, we expect a recovery and followed by an upcycle in 25, and growth should remain pretty elevated at 2026. So hence, we believe Kelington is a good proxy to ride on the front end of this trend. So our call for Kelington is outperform. We have a target price of 4 ringgit 10 cent. And based on the correction that happened last week, we believe it's a very good window to have exposure to Kelington. Simply because a lot of institutions are very keen on Kelington, and they have been participating quite well. Hence, the concentration rate of institutional investors, I think at this juncture, is more than half for Kelington. And hence, this provides very good stability. And we like Kelington for its proxy to front-end wafer fab expansion, strong earnings visibility. If you look at even the downturn, they still managed to give you record earnings because of their order book that has helped them to weather through those down cycles. And as we look ahead for the new upcycle, I believe they will start to see the same trend that they saw in 2020 and 2021 with a very steep upward trajectory. So that's all for Kelington. And another company I'll just briefly go through is Inari. So everyone is familiar with Inari, I believe. It's a long company, it's an old company, and it's the bellwether of our tech in Malaysia. But what I want to highlight is Inari is also one of our top pick. It's a largest cap tech stock. And in terms of liquidity and volume, Inari is still the one to go to if that is something up your alley. So the exposure to DC is still very small, 13% of their revenue. They are still very much exposed to smartphones, which is not a favorable thing 2 years ago, but today is something that is something that I would pay attention to, because smartphones has been on a downward trend for the last 8 or more quarters. But if you look at the recent deliveries of smartphone globally, it has started to turn positive. And this actually aligns well with the 2 to 3 years replacement cycle of smartphone. So if you try to recall when was the last time you actually bought a new phone or upgrade your laptop, I believe it was during the COVID period in 2020 or 2021. And today is 2024, which is already 3 years past. And hence, we believe the replacement cycle is very much due. And in addition to a replacement cycle story, Inari, the upcoming smartphones is believed to have AI embedded into it, and that would further incentivize consumer to ride on the replacement cycle. And just a quick refresher on what Inari does. Inari assembles and tests RF filter for their customer, which is used in a US smartphone. And what they do is the RF module. So specifically RF filters, and RF filters are the ones that help to filter out the unwanted frequency and bring in the good frequency. Hence, you have a good signal to noise ratio. And this was a big break for them when the market transitioned to 5G. Now, going forward, we'll have more advancement beyond 5G, where we include more frequency bandwidth into the phone as we move towards the journey of 6G. So that journey doesn't come just immediately 6G. There is progression, and with more bandwidth being inserted into the phone, you need more filters, and these filters have to go through longer testing periods. So for Inari, the story is replacement cycle, AI functionality to incentivize the replacement cycle, longer test times for RF filters, and higher density or higher count of components in a single device, which would drive their revenue. So for Inari, we are overweight on them. We have an outperform call with a TP of 460. What we like in Inari is they have a very unique strategy, which is called China for China, Penang for the West. So remember, Inari did a private placement, I think 2 years ago. They raised cash to actually expand into Yiwu, China. And this is to have exposure in the smartphone market. And if you look at China's smartphone, Huawei had a breakthrough on the 7nm process. Xiaomi went on a premiumization effort. Xiaomi managed to launch their first car while Apple is still struggling, or even shelve the project. So we have seen some glimpse of how China brands are starting to premiumize themselves and attract the Chinese own domestic consumers also, in addition the Western market. And China brands has seen quite a positive shipment if you track it globally. And this is why we are positive that Inari is tapping into that market and trying to get a eye of the game. So their Yiwu location plan will be a JV with a PE fund in China. This will be operational by the second half of this year. And they have a very ambitious target of achieving 1 billion revenue for this Yiwu expansion in 3 years. This is in renminbi, and with a possible listing status in China. So we are still very positive on Inari. They are a big company. They have been around for very long, but they are also a company that actually continues to evolve and be on the front end of technological advancement. So this is 460 is our target price for Inari. So in summary, just now we went through the Johor boom, the DC boom in Johor. I just recap, this was due to Singapore +1 spillover. Johor has larger land space, cheaper electricity, better water supply compared to Singapore. And again, our renewable energy initiative is something that is attracting. So our top picks are PIE, Kelington, Inari, and I add in here LGMS simply because cybersecurity is something is so under the radar, no one talks about, but we will leave this for another session down in the future, which I can elaborate much more. And you should pay attention really closely because after the construction phase, you have the fit out stage where you buy servers. And after the fit out stage, you have the commissioning stage before you go operational. And during the commissioning stage, you need cybersecurity because data center is going to house so much data, keep so much data, so much of our personal data, and cybersecurity will be a very, very essential thing to have. But this will be for another topic. So that's all for my picks for today. I think I've overran a little bit. Thanks, Adrian. I'll pass it back to you.
So I think partly when you highlight cybersecurity is also due to potential news on the upcoming law also, right?
Yes, the Cybersecurity Bill 2024 that has been passed in Parliament in June.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So are we waiting for a bit more of a details for that?
The law has been passed in the Parliament, Dewan Rakyat. It has been gazetted. We are just waiting for it to be officially enforced.
The enforcement. So do you have any thoughts on the timeline?
an article just came out, I think,
today or past 2 days.
Past 2 days that
Yeah.
saying that cybersecurity is the new cybersecurity bill will be a law. We are looking at a timeline of maybe end of this year or early next year.
Very exciting. You know what, Samuel? Probably we'll let you take a break first, and we shall come back for Q&A. And for our audiences, right? I mean audiences, blah. Alamak, my English. I'm Malaysian, by the way. That's why not too bad, not too good, huh? So, yeah. You can type in your questions for Q&A. We shall allow Samuel to take a short break while I introduce you to our special guest. For those who have burning questions, do type in the chat box. We shall attend to it once Samuel come back from his break. So our special guest tonight is Amirul from Bursa, and he have something interesting to share with us. I'm actually equally curious. And before I hand the floor to him, among the topics of the three stocks from Samuel, PIE, KGB, and Inari, we do also have call warrants. Do pose some question to Isabelle on that too. Yeah. So yes, Amirul, the floor is yours. Showtime.
Thank you, Adrian. Hi, good evening, Kenanga Troopers. Glad to see you all in here tonight. Samuel, it was a good sharing session. I enjoyed throughout the entire session. But today, specifically to all the Kenanga Troopers, I would like to introduce something that Bursa is working on currently. It has gone live, and we are still working on it, on improving it and launching it. Launching many more features, in next coming month or in the next quarter. Minding of time, I will not take too much time in promoting this new initiative or platform that Bursa just recently launched. I will just take about 5 or 10 minutes to walk you guys through on what we have in our pipeline. So before I further to my presentation or this sharing session, I will share my screen. Hope you guys can see my screen.
Yep. Good.
Okay. All right. So today, what I would like to introduce to all the Kenanga Troopers is we have this new platform called My Bursa. So a little bit of history before I fully introduce My Bursa. So currently, in the Bursa ecosystem, we have too many platforms, such as we have Bursa Academy. For those who are beginners, they can come to Bursa Academy and learn and find the courses or learning education materials you can find on the Bursa Academy. And then we have Bursa Marketplace, where you can find all the market data and information, conduct your research, test the tools like Screener or our heat map. And finally, we have Bursa Anywhere. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with those platforms that we are currently offers to the investors. But eventually, we are bringing all of these platforms together into My Bursa. So My Bursa is a new platform launched by Bursa Malaysia recently this year. So My Bursa will be the centralized platform for the investors like you and also me to acquire the market data and information, to also try out the tools like Screener, heat map, and we also provide you with solutions such as our post-trade solution, the CDS services, all in one hub. So moving forward, you don't need to go anywhere. You can just come to Bursa or My Bursa to conduct your pre-trade activities such as learning about the stock market, conducting your research, screening your stock using our tools, and to all the way to the conducting your post-trade activity, especially on the CDS services that we currently offer. So you can explore our site. The link is here. Is so easy to remember. The link is my.bursamalaysia.com. So I would encourage all the Kenanga troopers here to sign up for my Bursa account, because the special thing about my Bursa is what we offer is a personalized experience to the individuals. So regardless of the experience that you have, be it if you're a beginner, intermediate, or an advanced investor, we have something for you. And the experience when you onboard to my Bursa, it will be personalized and it's tailor-made for you. So what we offer under my Bursa is an investment tools. Of course, currently we offer in Bursa Marketplace, but what you can have under my Bursa is much more an enhanced version. The unique thing about my Bursa is, it is being designed by the investors. So when we develop those features, we ask the investors to come and give a feedback and design the tools, or the whole my Bursa together with us actually. So it is being designed by the investors for the investors. So we have investment tools. Currently, we offer like a stock screener and also heat map. And secondly, we have data and insights. So we are providing a free market data and information plus insights on my Bursa. So the data is being provided by Refinitiv, and we offer to all the investors for free. So it is up-to-date data, so you can gain insights and market data, so you can conduct your fundamental analysis and technical analysis in my Bursa. The next one, we have article and courses. So to those of you that are still beginner, intermediate, or advanced, we have articles, we have education materials and courses for you. So just come to my Bursa, register as a user, and enjoy our range of education materials and courses designed for you and tailor-made for you.
Wow, that's really a good announcement that I've made. I'm already on the website browsing through. I'm a bit casual, by the way.
No worries. I like your spirit, as I mentioned earlier. You have like a very high energetic spirit, and I love it.
So Azizul, just to check with you a bit, just interrupt a bit. Just the data provided by Refinitiv, is it live, or is it just more for the fundamental basis on that structure?
Okay, so it is not live. It is currently now 50 minutes delayed. But we are working on something special with Refinitiv and also with our group technology to offer you, instead of 15 minutes, but we are trying to reduce it up to 3 minutes. So we are working on it. But currently, as it is 15 minutes delayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's really good now that I can actually screen for dividends, stocks that I would have liked to view on and check out for an investment profile, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
All right. I will continue.
Just to support you, Miro. We were discussing with the team, and we want to offer our webinar participants today. We're going to choose at random. If you can actually sign up for my Bursa, to all of our 181 participants today. If you can sign up for my Bursa, we'll give 50 ringgit Shopee vouchers to the first 10. Well, not to the first 10, just screenshots, send it over to our Facebook via message at Kenanga Group. And we're happy to support this Bursa initiative. So thank you very much, Amirul. And I do hope our participants will leverage on using their new platform.
Thank you so much, Isabelle, and all to the Kenanga team. Really appreciate the support. And of course, in the future, we can collaborate more for more, initiatives. Okay. I just have 2 more slides. I will continue further to my presentation. We also have coming soon features that we are currently developing as we speak right now. So the features that we are excited to announce is, first we have Invest Lab. So Invest Lab is basically a playground for all the investors, be it if you are still new in the stock market, or if you are already in the market. So Invest Lab is basically a playground for you to learn, to connect with the reminders and with the analysts, and to experiment. So we plan to provide the avenue for all the investors to come and connect. I mean, if you want to learn more about stock market, then you can just come to Invest Lab and connect with our reminders or the analysts, and you can try out the tools, and everything is virtual, so you can try it out without any risk. It's also good, with Invest Lab, you can also connect directly with the analysts and also the reminders, so you can engage with them and connect with them much more closely, I would say. The second one, we will offer the consolidated portfolio management. So as of right now, you have like CDS account, and currently we also have a product like Bursa Godina and BR caps. So with My Bursa, you can monitor and manage all of your accounts in one hub, which is in My Bursa. And lastly, we will provide you with the CDS services, the post-trade services. Like currently what we offer under Bursa Anywhere. So you can enjoy My Bursa soon. Once we complete the whole My Bursa, we will be decommissioning the other platform, namely Bursa Anywhere, Marketplace, Academy, and Sustain. Lastly, before I wrap my presentation, I will encourage everyone to sign up for My Bursa account. You can just scan the QR code here. The sign up is so easy. It just takes you about, I would say, about 30 seconds to complete the registration. What we need is just your name, your email and password, and you're done. But the unique thing about My Bursa, as I mentioned earlier, once you register, the dashboard, the experience will be personalized to you. So it depends on your preferences, be your beginner. All the content will be tailored for you, regardless if you are a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So I do hope everyone, all Kenanga troopers, sign up for My Bursa account today and enjoy the tailor-made experience. And if you have any feedback for us to improve further My Bursa, do reach out to us. You can email us at mybursasupport@bursamalaysia.com, or you can email me personally at amirulhusaini@bursamalaysia.com. So I would like to end my presentation by thanking Kenanga, Elizabeth, Andrew, and the team for organizing this and for having me to be part of tonight's session. And also I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the Kenanga troopers for attending this session. Really appreciate you spending the time with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amirul, for sharing us this polished gem that you have been working on. And just there's a quick question from Hafizi before I let you go. Will My Bursa replace Bursa Marketplace?
Yes, My Bursa will be replacing Marketplace. So we are bringing everything together in one hub. So by this year we'll be decommissioning Bursa Academy first. Next year, by first half of 2025, we'll be decommissioning Bursa Marketplace, and Bursa Anywhere will follow suit next year. So all of these investor module will be completed by next year. So
that's good. That's good. I think now we can just not relying on foreign tools. Or now I just signed up already when you are presenting.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adrian.
Yeah. So I think thanks a lot, Azizul. Without further ado, probably let us invite Samuel back in on stage on the webinar. Then we can continue. Hi, Samuel.
Hi, Adrian.
There are a few very tough questions I've been screening through while Azizul is presenting us something so nice to use. I mean, it's so pleasing to the eyes. So let's start. I mean, we are getting short of time. So let's start. There's one question from Kok Wing Lai. I would say either I call you Wing. Okay. Intel's in recent announcement to cut aggressively, is that concern will affect the semicon industry in Malaysia, while they are also building a very huge factory in Penang at the moment?
So Intel currently is going through some challenges, no doubt, but they are not to be dismissed totally for this short blip. I think their venture in Malaysia is still very much a valid one. It hasn't really officially stated that will it be disrupted or not for the Malaysia side. So far, the laying off that was announced is mainly in other countries. I think Israel is one of them. But Malaysia one is so far untouched. We believe that the existing Malaysia plant is still very much operational. The expansion that is a very sizable one that will actually be taking couple of years, because if you look at the capex they actually committed, if not mistaken, it's more than it's around 7 B USD. So that is a lot, and I think it will be a multi-phase, multi-year kind of expansion. So I wouldn't be too worried. So I think it's still there. It may reduce, it may be tweaked, but so far I don't think it would affect the whole tech sentiment, if that's the question.
That's good. That's good. So there's another very interesting question from maybe we start with Vertis IPO. Do you have any thoughts, or have you actually explored the company?
Well, this IPO is, I will put them, if you look at my first flow chart of the semiconductor overview and the supply chain, I'll put them at the system integrator alongside the likes of your Infoline Tech, because mainly they are integrating, and at this time they are integrating software instead of hardware. So I believe the driver of their story is very much related to Telecom Malaysia. So Telecom Malaysia is their main customer, more than half of their revenue, and they are actually riding on the potential of Telecom Malaysia switching their system. So if you follow Telecom Malaysia, if you get your Wi-Fi, your Streamix bill, your Unify bill, it's all generated by a operating system, and that operating system is Oracle. And they have been using Oracle for more than a decade. And a decade is typically how long you sign a contract for when it comes to all this back-end system. So with that coming up to its expiry date, Telecom is looking to whether we want to switch to a new one. It's not going to be a very easy decision, because this means that your whole billing system, your CRM system, your HRM system is all going to be changed. And Telecom is a big organization. So, but then they are planning to change. So, and that is due, it's close to due date. So their tender is running and Vertis is participating. So if or when they change, you need Vertis to be there to do the reconfiguration and the linking up of database to the CRM and the HRM. And hence, I think Vertis is having the tailwind of that change.
Okay, since we are running a bit short of time, probably the last question, not an easy one. Since the tech sector is already seeing some light at the end of the tunnel after the 2 years drought, right? Why are companies like MI, QSD, and O Great Tech and UWC are still not seeing the market interest? This is a question from Lim Han, by the way.
Okay, so I believe we are still at the early stage of the tech recovery. As with the data center catalyst, I think you can look at the data center team in Malaysia alike to the LSS1 solar energy boom in Malaysia. So we're at the early stage. again, the recovery also we are at the early stage. So I think these names some may react faster. Like you can see why Kelington is moving up way faster, because I explained they are in the forefront of the recovery curve. Some tends to move slightly slower. So MI, QES, they are a bit of the back end. So I think they may need 1 to 2 or 3 quarters more to see that kind of pipeline pick up. And yeah, so overall we are positive, just that we are positioning names that mentioned in our slide just now as the first layer of beneficiary.
And would it be the context of these companies who are also waiting a bit more of a solid performance in terms of financials delivery in coming quarters? Would that be an expectation?
Yes. So because they are not the first beneficiary, sometimes investor could be reluctant to wait for 2 quarters. They rather park it somewhere that is aligned with their initial first layer beneficiary, then only move towards the others. And I think with everyone, earnings delivery is something people always expect to provide confidence.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So let me check if there's any more question. I mean, thank you for the very insightful question from the macro perspective of understanding the sector until the individual companies that you have highlighted. I mean, I'm a noob in the tech scene now. I kind of understand a bit more.
No problem.
So far, there's no more questions. So shall we say thank you to Samuel for his effort and time tonight? Thanks, Samuel. And
Thanks.
we shall invite Isabelle, and please do ask her that few questions, I actually put it in the chat. Okay, hi Isabelle.
Hi, Adrian. Hey, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And Samuel, I loved your logical train of thought. That was very enjoyable. And as we mentioned earlier, if you actually sign up for my Bursa and Naga Warrants, we're happy to support this Bursa initiative. And we'll be giving away 10, 5, 50 ringgit Shopee vouchers to those who actually send us those screenshots as proof that you signed up. Don't worry, we'll give away more vouchers for our next upcoming webinar happening this Thursday. So do stick around for that. But straight away, let's get into our PIE, Inari, and let's have a look. So as you all know, warrants, they are like a sweetener. They are a kicker to the portfolio. And if you actually look at our website, I'll show you here right now, straight away, if I just pull up something like our nagawarrants.com, we have over here the Naga matrices. You can see PIECN, we've got Inari C2N and KGBCI. Can you guys see my screen, or is it freezing over there?
You can see your iPad screen is not turning into any slides just yet. I think it froze.
Just give me a sec. I think so too. Give me a second. All righty. So do you see this screen now?
Hold on.
Ah, wonderful.
Yep, it's up. Yep.
Okay, super. So this is nagawarrants.com, and it shows all of the other. You're very welcome, Bursa. Happy to help. But this is all of our PIECN, Inari C2N, KGBCI. And for those of you who are newbies, can you just write in the chat if this is the first time you're actually listening to our webinar session? Can you press 1? If it's the second time you've listened, press 2. Third time you've listened, press 3. I just want to know what kind of crowds we're listening to today, so I know whether to go slow or to go really fast. All right, 1,000. Sure. So I'll cover it a bit slow today. I see a lot of number ones. So this is the Naga matrices that we have on nagawarrants.com. And if I do a quick scan, I opened up earlier. This is the Naga scanner. So if I want to compare PIE to all the other warrants in the market, I can see that there are only 3 warrants in the market. PIECL issued by Maybank, PIECM issued by Anbank, and PIECN issued by Kenanga. I can spot easily that the CL is expiring in 17 days. And I'm not saying that issuers have bad warrants. It's just that the issuance timetable takes time. So during this duration, the best warrant at the moment is PIECN by Kenanga. I can look at the next warrant, for example, Inari. And when you look at Inari, for a newbie who's attending for the first time today, it's natural to be overwhelmed, right? You're like, if I look at the bottom, there are 13 Inari warrants. So in this short session, I'll just cover till about 9:35. I'll just show you easily how to select warrants. So let's get to those slides. I was thinking I was going to cover barbell strategy today, but I'll just maybe keep it for this Thursday when I see you again. We're having a beginner session, which goes on for about an hour and a half on this Thursday, followed by another advanced session next Thursday, and then we're going to have it in Mandarin following month. So if you prefer whichever language, ideally I like to do one in Malay as well, if you've seen our TikTok videos. So that's me. Some awards we've won. Very happy with those, with these regional awards we've been focusing on. And yes, back to PIECN, Inari C2N, and KGBCI. So for a beginner looking at this, you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, Isabelle, why are you doing this to me? Well, I can see very easily. The first thing I look at when I look at the Naga matrix is I try to count how many ticks there are. So because my eyesight is terrible, I deliberately made these into gray and white. I can see that PIECN, the underlying PIE is here, PIE ask, PIECN, the warrants bid, PIECN, the warrants offer. I can see that for the whole gray zone, it stays at the same price, 18.5 cents, while the underlying moves up. I can see for the whole white zone, it stays at 18 cents, while the underlying moves up. For this whole part, it is 17.5 cents, while the underlying moves up. And for this whole part, it's 17. So if I just count really easily, I'm going to be giving away Shopee vouchers for this as well, by the way. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can tell this is 6 ticks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can tell PIECN is about 6 to 7 ticks. If it's Inari, I could just count it 4, 4, 4, 4 approximately, right? So why do I bother with all of this counting nonsense? It is because I can tell how fast the warrant is going to move. When I actually look at something like this, let's get to the next slide first. So I covered PIECN a tiny bit, but actually before we actually get into the warrants a bit more, I want to do something a bit unorthodox since I have a lot of new listeners today. These are some common mistakes that traders always make whenever they start trading warrants. And I know usually when you go for a product session or you try to learn about something, people always tell you the fantastic things. Oh, this is going to solve world's hunger. This is going to solve cancer. They're going to tell you all the fantastic things. And all the disastrous things, they leave it for the end in small, fine print, the disclaimers. But since I have a lot of new attendees today, I want to cover the common mistakes from the start. So you don't make these mistakes ever, right? Learn your mistakes from somebody else. So the first mistake is not limiting your risk. And how do you limit your risk? The easy way is to use the Naga matrix. By actually spotting where I can put a stop loss, I can limit my risk already. I need to have a plan. Before I even enter a trade, I need to have 3 things. Entry price, stop loss price, take profit price, 3 things. Second thing is not taking profits. Some people take paper profit. So I don't know if any of you experience this, but whenever you have a really nice profit on your screen, on your app that you're using to trade, and you think it's, quite a sexy return, you would screenshot it, but you won't actually take profit. Anybody experience that? You would screenshot it, but you don't actually press the button to sell. You're just like, okay, I just want to keep this. And then the next day when you look at it again, it's actually gone down. Anybody? If you've experienced this, press paper. Okay, I can see some laughing over there. Number 3 is employing a buy and hold strategy. Now, this works well for stocks. It's really bad for warrants. Warrants are not something that you can pass on to your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren like a public bank stock. Warrants are a trading tool. Warrants are your slave, just like money is your slave. It is not supposed to be passed on to the grandkids. Another common mistake is refusing to cut loss. So you can remember that for the same thing I mentioned earlier, for stocks and ETFs, these things are to perhaps invest in. And this is where you can tell whether a person knows trading or not, whether they use the word invest for stocks or to trade for warrants. So when it comes to trading, it is more short-term or mid-term. That's why people would say you trade Forex, you trade crypto. Does anybody actually say you invest in crypto or you invest in Forex or you invest in futures? No, right? Number 5, averaging down. Averaging down is common human behavior. We always think, oh, you know what? I'd rather not to realize my unrealized loss. I'd rather just average down. Besides, I heard in the markets, they say you should dollar cost average. Totally different concept. Averaging down is buying twice the amount, hoping that you'll make that gain back. Dollar cost average is actually putting in the same amount. So for example, 1,000 ringgit, right? Consistently. I saw somebody say that you invest in Bitcoin. Congratulations, that is your strategy. I'm just telling you about the different terms that we use. So dollar cost averaging is kind of different because it is putting in a fixed amount, right? Warrants, you do not average down. No, no, no. If you get it wrong, if it's reached your cut loss point, you cut. You don't, correct, agree. Average dollar cost averaging is not a smart way for warrants. That's why I'm covering all these mistakes that I see people made over the years in my 8-9 years as a warrants issuer. Warrants is not an average down product. And the last thing is not using the Musty checklist. So for Musty, it is 5 things that we came up with. I always say you mesti gunakan mesti. M stands for matrix, E stands for effective gearing, S stands for sensitivity, T stands for time to expiry, and I is choose a responsible issuer. So you need to cover these things. But when you cover these things, it kind of encapsulates all of the other mistakes you can possibly make, which I'd like to cover in more detail on Thursday. So earlier I did mention a barbell strategy, and for those of you who are just joining us for the first time today, we do have some videos out on this, but the most important thing to remember for a newbie is even though warrants can give you super normal returns, for example, warrants can give you something like 50% ROI, okay? And I know many of us Malaysians will think, you know what? 50% ROI? Why don't I just put my whole portfolio into warrants and gain 50%, right? But no, that is not a smart thing to do. I'm giving you an example. Just 20% is sufficient. The other 80%, you can consider buying different products that give you different returns, 3%, 8%. The idea of this barbell strategy is by putting the majority of a portfolio in a low risk, a low reward section, and only 20% in a small, high risk, high reward, big payoff section. And the math proves it. Let's say if I do the math over here, I'm doing a 30, 50, 20 percentage, okay? So 30 plus 50 plus 20 is 100%. And I multiply it by the percentage. I can see that my total ROI is 14.9%, which is attractive. And I'm not putting my whole basket into trading Hang Seng Index or trading warrants or trading BTC. I'm using a small percentage to boost the returns of my whole portfolio. If everybody understands this, please press barbell in the chats. Another thing for newbies, this is the difference between structured warrants and company warrants. You can see that structured warrants, they have the names C over here. And for call warrants on indices, they also have the C. And for structured warrants and call warrants on indices, they have the C. And for put warrants, it is a H. And for company warrants, they start with the WA, WB, WC, and so on. The difference is mainly this. There is a market maker for your trading. So the difference when you trade structured warrants compared to company warrants is that structured warrants, you need to use things like musty strategy and you must use the matrix. However, you consider company warrants, you can consider other things, for example, premiums, discounts, expiry, and volume. The company warrants behave very independently compared to structured warrants, which are tagged to the underlying share or index. So if the underlying index or share moves up for the structured warrant, structured warrants are like a baby. They will follow the mother share. But like all babies are, they exaggerate. So if the mother goes a bit further away, they get very happy. If the mother goes further down, they cry dramatically. So structured warrants are a more dramatic version of the mother share. And finally, I've covered this in the last session that I had with Joshua, we had last month. But since we have a few beginners, I'm just going to do this really quickly. And this will be my final part that I'm sharing for tonight. So I can see that if in a stock like Dialog, this is the underlying bid, Dialog's offer, Dialog C1E's bid, Dialog CIE's C1E's offer, I can spot that it maintains the same price here, right? So a smart person would put their stop loss here at the bottom, and they would enter just when Dialog is hopping from 228 to 229. Let me zoom in further to show you. So I would enter here, for example, 3 cents. So immediately when Dialog moves from 228 to 229, the bid would be 3 cents and the offer would be 3.5. And it will stay at that price until Dialog hits 234. So that's why it's so important to have these matrices so you can see all of these things. And just a reminder, if you haven't joined our Telegram, we also offer buy on bids. So if you're interested in something like all of these warrants, we offer bid prices. That means when it's at the bottom of the matrix, we will actually consider hitting you on the bid. It's called a buy bid promo for all of these warrants. And now that we have that exciting section earlier, I think we should actually put PIE, the Inari, and the KGB Kelington Group onto the buy bid tomorrow. So do stick around for that. All right, first giveaway for tonight. We're giving away Shopee vouchers for this. How much are we giving away? Yeah. Anyway, they'll figure it out. How many ticks is this warrants for Inari C2N? We'll be choosing at random, so don't worry if your connection is slow. Just answer the question. We'll be choosing a winner at random. I'll let you guys answer for a moment. Zoom in, have a look. We made it really easy. As you can see, previously, other issuers, they put all whites, but they've copied my strategy of putting it gray and white. It's easier to look at. All right, I see a few answers coming in. Great. The answer is 4 ticks. I see most of you got it right. I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased. Whew. That means all this work having webinars is paying off. All right. This I'll cover on Thursday as well, the Mufti strategy on how to choose warrants, advantages, and risks. But I do have one more giveaway, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, PIECN. For another Shopee voucher, how many ticks is PIECN? Feel free to zoom in, and just a hint, there may sometimes be two answers. And if you got it wrong, you can answer again. I won't penalize you to it. In trading, we're looking for accuracy more than speed sometimes. So it's no point answering fast if you're going to get it wrong. And the answer, oh, I see. Good job, Chloe. Nice. I see quite a few answers there. The answer is 6 to 7 ticks. Our team will choose the winners and they'll be sending you your Shopee vouchers immediately. So this is Thursday's events that we're having. That is me. 15th August, that is this Thursday. And then the advanced session is happening 22nd August. And then my lovely colleague Isaac will be having another Mandarin session for beginners and then an advanced session as well in September. We'll be covering equity warrant ingredients, personal finance, more on issuers, more on market makers. And a final thing, if you can do me all a favor, we're giving away a bunch of Shopee vouchers as well. If you can just write on our Facebook group, we'll send the link over in just a moment. If you can just send over your key takeaways from any of the speakers today. And also, what would you like to hear on Thursday? I'm letting you vote. These are the FAQs that have been asked through the years. Plenty of topics I can cover. But as a beginner, do you want to know all? Do you want to know what's important to you? Do you want Hang Seng? Do you want Malaysian? Put it into the Facebook. I'd love to hear from you. And that wraps up my session.
Ooh, thanks a lot, Isabelle. I mean, we have covered quite some length today, from the tech scene, the depth of the knowledge of how to become a tech player, and how to navigate in the core warrant scene, and most importantly, my Bursa.
Yes.
Nice. So I think the night is getting older. We are getting younger. For warrants, I think let's tune in on Thursday. I'm also learning. Definitely love to tune in, and even for the advance. So shall we call it a night today?
Sounds great to me. Tomorrow's another market day, and I hope all of you have a thriving and prosperous day at the markets.
All right. So I think we shall call it a night. And thanks again for everyone that have joined us tonight. And fingers crossed, we shall see you guys on this Thursday. All right. Good night. All the best tomorrow.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Isabelle.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.